Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. Today, we're discussing plot holes in The Prisoner of Azkaban. The Prisoner of Azkaban was one of my favourite films in the entire Harry Potter series, and it hasn't lost an ounce of its sheen in the 18 years since it debuted. But even though I loved the movie, there were plenty of plot holes and inconsistencies that popped up on the silver screen. So today, we're going to take a look at some of the most interesting ones, and find out why they stand out. 7. No one noticed Pettigrew. If you've seen Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, then I'm sure you're aware of the massive role that Peter Pettigrew plays in it. The entire film centers around a single premise, that Sirius Black was responsible for the murder of Harry Potter's parents. But during the main reveal, we discovered that Black wasn't the one who betrayed James and Lily Potter. In fact, it was another one of their school day friends, a fellow marauder named Peter Pettigrew. But there's a problem with that. If Harry, Hermione, Ron, or the Weasley twins had taken a moment to pay attention to the Marauders Map, wouldn't they have noticed the strange man's name that always seemed to accompany them? Whenever they were slinking around Hogwarts late at night, they would have expected to only see their own names on the map. But what about Peter Pettigrew? Wouldn't his name have appeared right alongside Ron? And what about when Ron was sleeping? Wouldn't the appearance of Peter Pettigrew's name have been an even larger cause for concern? Even though the children noticed Peter's name on the map, they certainly didn't seem to be overly alarmed. 6. Time Turner rules. Now, when we talk about plot holes in The Prisoner of Azkaban, the Time Turners present more than their fair share. For starters, it doesn't really make too much sense to allow a 13-year-old girl access to time travel. Even if Hermione was the most trustworthy student at Hogwarts, why would Professor Minerva McGonagall entrust her with such a dangerous device? Not only could she have destroyed the future, she could have harmed herself. Time travel was tricky, as Lord Voldemort and Harry Potter's own children demonstrated decades later. Which brings me to my next point. Why weren't time turners used more often? In later years, J.K. Rowling carefully explained just how impractical a time turner would be for preventing loved ones from dying. After all, with time travel established in the wizarding world, it wouldn't really make sense for the likes of Dumbledore to not use it, especially when traveling back in time would have saved the world from so many of Voldemort's atrocities. During the events of The Prisoner of Azkaban, every time turner in Britain had been charmed with a special spell, so that its users could only ever stay in the past for, at most, 5 hours. But by the time Albus Severus Potter enrolled at Hogwarts, the rules for time turners changed. A new batch of devices had been created, and one of them provided unbridled travel to and from the past. When we try to wonder why the Ministry of Magic and the staff at Hogwarts never used time travel more frequently, the only obvious answer we can find is that it was simply too dangerous. But that raises another question. Number 5. Why didn't Voldemort try to get a time turner? Why didn't Voldemort ever try to get his hands on a time turner? Even if he only used the devices that the Ministry of Magic controlled, which didn't allow free travel through time, the Dark Wizard could have accomplished far more than he did during the 7 years Harry attended Hogwarts. And when you think about it, you have to wonder why Voldemort never tried his hand at creating a true time turner, like the one that Draco Malfoy used when he saved his son Scorpius and Albus Potter from the past. Voldemort was the most powerful Dark Wizard in recorded history. He was, perhaps, even greater than Herpa the Foul, the infamous sorcerer who first bred basilisks. And when he tore his soul into 7 parts and created his Horcruxes, Voldemort demonstrated that there was no aspect of magic too taboo for him to utilize. So, if a teenage girl like Hermione was able to achieve so much with the Time Turner, why didn't Lord Voldemort ever employ them? If his Death Eaters had only one of the Time Turners in their possession, the night their master first died while failing to kill an infant Harry Potter, they could have quickly brought him back to life. 4. Harry used magic outside of school. Several times throughout the film series, Harry Potter flinched at the idea of using magic outside of Hogwarts. He was underage, and performing magic was always a risky affair. The Ministry would quickly track him down, and Harry was starting to get the feeling that Cornelius Fudge's subordinates weren't too happy with his troublemaking ways. Even when Harry was older, there were times when he hesitated to use magic outside of the school. But during The Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry used a small charm, Lumos Maxima, while practicing sorcery in his bedroom. Even though it was a relatively small display of magic, and nothing that would risk exposing himself to muggles, the Ministry could have punished him, and Harry should have been well aware of that. But he didn't seem to care, as he practiced the incantation under the safety of his bedsheets. 3. Mrs. Norris's Yellow Eyes. Argus Filch was the resident caretaker for Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. He was infamous for more than a few bizarre personality traits, but students knew him best for the strange relationship he shared with his pet, Mrs. Norris. The brown cat was more than just a critter that Filch fed and bathed. Although Dumbledore treated Argus with respect, there was no debate surrounding the sad fate that Filch suffered. He was a squib, the offspring of magical parents who bore no magical ability of his own. And due to that, he was never able to climb through the rigid hierarchy of wizarding society. Instead of learning the ins and outs of potion making and launching a successful career as a hair loss elixirist or a magizoologist, Filch only served the magical class. And as a caretaker, that meant cleaning up the messes that all the young wizards and witches around Hogwarts made. And Mrs. Norris, his only companion, was always, faithfully, at his side. But if you pay close attention to Mrs. Norris in The Prisoner of Azkaban, you'll notice something. Her eye color changes. Now, this feline's eyes would change in later films as well, but in The Prisoner of Azkaban, if you focus, you can see that they flash from yellow in one scene back to red. 2. Open Sesame. Do you know how to open the Marauders Map? Well, you might, since you've already seen the films and read the books. But imagine that you just happened across the relic and had no clue how to reveal its secrets. Of all the possible passwords and incantations, how likely would it be that your mind would suddenly think of, "I solemnly swear that I am up to no good"? Because that's essentially what the Weasley twins did when they discovered the secrets of the Marauders Map. The map's creators, James Potter, Peter Pettigrew, Sirius Black, and Remus Lupin, never passed the secret on to Ron Weasley's older brothers, and there weren't very many hints stashed around Hogwarts. In fact, when J.K. Rowling was asked how the Weasley boys knew how to open the map, she herself could hardly answer. In a quick moment of conjecture, she imagined that the boys simply thought of the phrase all on their own. But considering all the possible passwords, that's a 1,000,000,000,000 scenario. The only possible way that the twins could have learned the magical incantation was through plot hole magic, as sad as that is to say. 1. How did Sirius afford presents? Sirius Black was a convicted murderer. By the time he escaped Azkaban, every wizard and witch knew exactly what Black went to jail for, and the posters that adhered to every wall and building would help remind them, just in case they forgot. So, with so much heat on his trail, how did Sirius manage to buy Harry Potter a brand new broomstick? The Ministry of Magic and their auras would have staked out every known Black family holding. There'd be no secret castle or Diagon Alley apartment where Black can hide, retrieve a few gold galleons, and continue on his journey to redemption. So how exactly did he get money? And how exactly did he buy Harry's gifts? And there you have it, 7 plot holes from Harry Potter and The Prisoner of Azkaban, the film. What did you think? Do you know any plot holes that didn't end up on this list? Share them in the comments below. And if you have your own headcanon for why some of these plot holes make sense, be sure to share your reasons as well. Until next time, remember, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live.